All right, welcome back. Right Path Real Estate Radio, 713-785-1817. We've got people joining us on the Book of Faces, asking questions. You can also call in, 713-785-1817. We did another quick change. Jerry Ta with Property Care.
Morning.
On the radio, propertycarehouston.com, 713-489-7653. So Richard on the Book of Faces asked, beginner question, after identifying a flip property, what's the next step? Secure financing, hard money lender, have fast track come out. What's the order of operations? Thanks. And I said, and I want to share it while we're live on the radio, because some people listen on terrestrial radio on AM 1110 or on iHeart or TuneIn, some of the other podcasts are on as well, but on Facebook. So really what we're saying is that you should already have a relationship with a hard money lender. Because that's really step one as you're going out, because you don't want to, sometimes deals move fast. Like we've got a deal right now. We got it under contract on Saturday. We've got to close by tomorrow. Yeah. And so sometimes you can't wait last minute because it's going to auction on Tuesday.
Hey, since he said a beginner question,
yep. Mm-hmm.
He says after you identify a flip property, I guess the first would be get it under contract.
Absolutely. Yeah. First, just get it under contract.
Don't start jumping up and down before you get some signatures.
Yeah, once you've identified it, get it under contract, and then step two is, and if you're a beginner, put an option on it. Give a 3-day option. That gives I have an advantage over a beginner because of my experience. But number two is I can go in and make an offer that would be better. Let's say he's offering $80,000 and I'm offering $80,000, but he offers a 3-day option and I offer a 0-day option, no option period. My earnest money goes hard immediately. Then my offer is a little better. But you can offer 3 days, which is better than the typical 10 days.
Right.
So it's not unusual for investors to start out, offering a 3-day option and then get fast track out there and then get the lender to take a look at the property as well during that 3-day period. And you don't really need to do much more than that.
Right.
Some investors, a lot of buy and hold investors that start out getting an inspector to come as well, and we don't discourage that.
Right.
There's especially looking at the 4 major systems: foundation, roof, plumbing, HVAC. Mm-hmm. There's 17 different systems that inspectors look at for investors, but the main ones are what's the supply line and drain line plumbing doing?
Yeah.
What's the foundation doing? What's the HVAC doing? What's the roof doing? All of those. Those are the 4 big ticket items.
Yeah, and I tell people that if you have a good deal, the money will find you.
Absolutely.
It should be no problem finding money.
Yes.
If the deal is good and right.
Yeah.
You shouldn't worry about. That's the kind of last thing you should worry about.
Yeah. So if you got a great deal, put it under contract.
Yeah.
And then lock it up. And then and then follow the process from there. So
right.
So your property management.
Mm-hmm.
You've been managing properties for how long now?
5 years now.
Okay.
I actually got like an anniversary from our management software.
Oh, good for you.
They sent me a little nice care package.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So it's been 5 years.
About how many properties do y'all manage now?
Between 300 to 400.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's one of the questions I get a lot from brand new investors.
Mm-hmm.
Again, a beginner question is like, at what point should I hire a property manager? And I always answer, I'm like, well, here's a step in the process that really matters from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Because the very first step in buying a property, especially if it doesn't have a tenant already,
right?
If it doesn't have a tenant already, the very first thing you're going to be doing, after the rehab is going to be to get a tenant in there, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the areas that I feel like people do a horrible job is screening tenants, right, if they're self-managing.
Right.
So if you're not a tenant screening tenants, and how could you be if you've never done it before?
Right.
I mean, very few times are you great at anything. When I started playing racquetball, wasn't very good at it. When I started playing poker, wasn't very good at it. When I started doing a lot of things, riding a bike, I could keep going, right? Mm-hmm. Although they say if you're not good at things when you first try, don't try skydiving.
Right.
Right. If at first you don't succeed, don't try skydiving. Don't try again. Right? Yeah. But again, I didn't do that by myself, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't go, today feels like a good day to figure out skydiving. No, I brought a professional in, right?
Right.
So I don't want to figure out property management when I can hire a professional for mm-hmm. for $85 a month. That's a steal. Why would I want to do it myself? What are some of the reasons people give you for why they've done it themselves and then they hire a property manager?
They just want to learn the process. And that's perfectly fine also. You can learn from reading a book also. But to your point always is that what is your time better spent on? Is it managing your own properties, or do you want to find that next investment property?
I get that there's some people that really want to know how the watch works.
Yeah.
I just want the watch to tell me what time it is. And now I don't even wear a watch because my phone's with me all the time, and I just use that to tell me what time it is. Like,
I think people get mistaken by, there's a difference between knowing what you need to do versus knowing the right questions to ask.
Yeah.
Like
I go to restaurants all the time and I eat really, really good food, but I don't have to know the recipe or how it was made, how many minutes it was in this contraption, or was it made with a flame broil, or was it a sous vide? I don't need to know all that. I just enjoy really good food.
Yeah.
And as an investor, I wanna make a return on my time and a return on my money. That's the two things that I'm leveraging. And it's not the best use of my time to manage my own properties. So so people say they want to learn the process. What else?
I think people they don't want to spend the money.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. There's
that's the thing, is that people are going to spend the money.
Yeah.
They really are. Either, oftentimes people say, well, how much is this to do? And I go, well, you mean if you do it or if you don't?
Right.
Because what people don't realize is there's a cost for doing something and there's a cost for not doing something.
Right.
There's a cost for you managing it yourself. There's a cost for transferring that over. That's the same thing with insurance, right? There's a cost for self-insuring, and then there's a cost for insurance.
Yeah. People don't allot a value on their time.
Yes.
Which is, I think, the biggest problem,
It's one of the big points of our teaching recently is we've been spending about 20 or 30 minutes. In fact, when people come to our 2-day class, Saturday and Sunday, our Saturday night homework assignment, like we give them homework, you're going to go home, because we ask everybody in the room, hey, what is your time worth?
Right.
And 99.9% of every now and then we get one person out of the entire room that says, oh, my time's worth this much an hour. Most people have no clue. And I go, okay, so your homework assignment, go home tonight and figure out on an hour, what do you want to make a year?
Yeah.
Do the math, divide it by 50 weeks in a year, divide by 2,500, 50 hours a week, 50 weeks out of the year. What's your time worth? And then come back on Sunday morning. That's what they do. And then they're like, oh, my God, I didn't realize that my time is worth this much an hour. And until you know that, you can't make good decisions about where you spend your time.
Right.
And I know that seems so elementary.
And people who are like late to meetings and stuff, they don't value
other people's time.
Right?
Right.
I mean, it goes along, and I get into these forums every once in a while, these landlord forums that I talk to, and we had this landlord that was just, she felt taken by handymans, and I'm like, there's really not a lot of money in handyman business. Like, in my example was like, for example, changing a toilet kit. The materials is like maybe $20.
Yeah, maybe.
Right. But it could cost between $200 to $300.
Yeah, right.
And I was
I wouldn't do it for $200.
Right. And I was like, probably $250.
Yeah, right.
And I'm okay with paying that,
right?
Because I understand what it takes. Because they got to drive to you.
Yep.
They got to go to Home Depot or what if they
They don't normally. That you would think that they would stock, have 8 or 10 on the van. That's what we would do, right? But they don't. They're handymen. They're not going to stock one of everything they need. They're going to go find out what they need. Then they go to Home Depot. Then they come back, and it's like they're not very efficient.
Right.
If they were very efficient, they would be running a business. They wouldn't be a handyman.
Right. And that's what I told her. It's like if they were great at their job, they'd be general contractors.
Right.
But then I was like, explain the contingencies. You turn in the shutoff valve, it could break.
Yeah.
You get a new shutoff valve. The plastics are brittle. And she was just like, I just want to pay $20 the amount of time that it takes them to replace this, and that's it. And I'm like, well,
you know what? I want to pay just $10 to go see a doctor.
There's an overhead cost to it.
Right, exactly. Right.
So back to my point is that people don't value their time. People don't value other people's time when they're late and stuff. So people just don't value time. And when you're managing on rental properties, I think people don't value their time as much.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's when I'd say to somebody like that, well, hey, I want you to come mow my grass for just $10. That's all I want to pay.
Right.
Yeah. So Mary from the Book of Faces says, since my first rental, I've used Property Care, great management company. By the way, I closed on another one.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Yeah, we're helping her with another property right now.
Yeah.
And I think she's moving right along. Getting more and more properties.
It's easy to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6. There's unlimited scalability when you're not managing it yourself. When you're managing it yourself, you'll save a little bit of money. In time, in dollars, but not in time. And again, when I look at how many hours does it take for me to make $85, it's less than one, right? I make more than $85 an hour.
Right.
And so then the question becomes, am I going to spend more than an hour a month managing my own properties?
More than likely, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, one drive to any single property will kill an hour easily.
Yes.
Easily. You know what's funny about Maria there is that, I had the same situation with her as you did with me.
Yeah.
I kind of started working on a property before I got full approval.
Yeah, sure.
But I think it looks like she's happy now, so I think it worked out well.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll never forget that phone call when I got it from my roofing crew, and they go, "Yeah, we did this," and I'm like, "No, that's not the house I told you to go do," and they're like, "Oops." And I called you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for the listeners that don't know the story, when Jerry and I first were getting to know each other before you even had property care, right? I believe
way before.
Yeah, it was your own personal residence. You had one of your rental houses. It wasn't your personal. You had a rental house. It was an investment property that needed a roof, and you had asked me and another roofer to go out. And I was a couple of bucks, like $3 a square more expensive, or whatever it was. It wasn't. It was a little bit more.
Yeah.
And they had told you they could have it done by a particular date,
right?
And they didn't deliver on that. So although he was cheaper, he wasn't good at living up to his commitments. I made the mistake, and I told my crew to go out and give an estimate on the roof for Jerry's house and a roof on another house. And I said, hey, go do the other house. They did Jerry's house, so I'm calling up Jerry saying, hey, we mistakenly did your roof, and you really have me over a barrel. I'm going to ask for. Mercy really is all I often ask for. And he goes, yeah, man, just send me an invoice. I'll pay for it. And he did
I think you're new, you just started fast.
I think I was just one or two crews at the time.
Right.
It wasn't 12 crews. And, to eat a roof at that stage of a business would have been significant. And I didn't have to do that. So Chris says, this just happened to me. Landscaping mix-up and was completed before I closing this afternoon. So it all worked out. But lesson learned. Yeah, perfect. All right, so it's propertycarehouston.com. That's propertycarehouston.com. 713-489-7653. We're out of time. We got to go to a break. Thanks for coming in, man.
All right. Not a problem. Thank you.
Yep.